All right, what's going on, everyone? So I made my regular non-spoiler review for the Batman, and now I think it's time to make my spoiler review for the Batman. I just like to do it, at least I have the idea of doing it for bigger movies because I like to go in depth with them a little more, and I know a lot more people are kind of interested. More people go out to see them, so they like to, even though you might like regular non-spoiler reviews, you might also enjoy like the spoiler aspect. At least me as a viewer, I really like watching spoiler ones after I've seen a movie, just to get different perspectives and to kind of like get different takes on why someone might have liked or disliked a film. So I'm going to be doing that here, giving my specifics. If you haven't seen the movie, go to my non-spoiler review that I'm going to have up already, and then when you see it, you can come back here and again get kind of my specifics on what I liked and what I didn't like, and my more in-depth view. So I guess we can just get right into the spoiler review. So if turn it off again if you have not seen it right now. So first, I want to just kind of go over things that I liked. One aspect was just kind of something smaller that I liked, and the idea of, like, in the beginning, so Batman is narrating the movie. Well, at the beginning, he's like journaling, and so we just hear him narrating his journaling, and at the beginning and at the end. And at the beginning, he's kind of talking about how he feels he's represented and how people fear him because they think he's in the shadows, but he is the shadows. And then it's just really cool, a couple of the shots that they had where, you know, you had petty crimes going on, or like someone robbing the corner store, and then he runs out and he sees like a door with a shadow, or someone spray painting like a bank, I believe it was, and then the doors kind of open, and through there they see the shadows, and they're just like focused in on that, expecting Batman to come out, but he doesn't. And like the corner store robber like backs up, gets hit with a car, and like just the fear itself is what, you know, can cause people or criminals to kind of scatter, even though like things like that, it's kind of avoidable. So it's just like you're probably not gonna see Batman, but it's just the fact that you never know. Another thing I really liked was the amateur detective aspect of it, because if you didn't see my regular review, this movie is really reminiscent of the old comics, as far as I know, or specific Batman comics where he's just master detective, but he's only 2 years in at this point in this movie, so it's kind of, you kind of see how he's a bit of an amateur right now, and he's still learning things. And a lot of it has to do with because he grew up kind of with a silver spoon, and so he doesn't really know what it's like to be, you know, impoverished. You know, he obviously has been through things, but he doesn't know that exactly, that particular tough battle. And so like something as simple as, you know, this carpeting tool, he doesn't know what that is, and didn't even think to go back to that to, you know, as a clue. Personally, I mean, I'm not rich, and I had no idea what that tool was. I you know, I knew it was probably for something that he was using as just like a device to kill the mayor, but I did not know what it was until they brought up what it was. So I mean, I'm right there with Batman. To be, I mean, you never. Maybe I said too much right there. You know, I'm kind of torn on the car chase, because what you'll find out with me and my reviews is I hate car chase scenes if they don't have like some element to them other than just like show the one guy and he's driving fast, show the other guy with just he's intense in his face and he's trying to catch up, show the other guy, then show the other guy, then show the other guy, left turn, right turn. It's so, to me, it's incredibly lazy writing. And here I think at the beginning of the chase scene was good, because you kind of got a full like character of the Penguin, and you kind of see it in the trailer too, where the Colin Farrell gets to use his kind of chops in that scene there. And then the end where where basically, you know, Penguin hits the truck, which leads to this whole highway mix up, and Batman, you know, conveniently gets a ramp there and flies over through the fire and the explosion, which is cool. You know, it adds a little more than just left turn, right turn, or he's speeding up and then we're switching just point of views. One thing I think is this is a big moment in the movie, and I think is a moment that people are discussing and whether or not they really like the Riddler or not, and it's the specific scene when he calls or asks for Batman to meet him in Arkham. When he's at this point he's caught, Batman is coming to meet him, and for a couple reasons I really love this scene, because one, I honestly didn't catch on, I'm dumb now, but before, when he sent Bruce Wayne an envelope and then inside it said to the Batman, which for me should have clicked, like, okay, so he doesn't know that Batman's Bruce Wayne because he's killing him, or he wanted to kill him, but then he has a note to Batman. Obviously, if he knew Bruce Wayne was Batman, he wouldn't have a note to Batman. I mean, I guess unless Bruce Wayne opened up the note first and then saw "See you in hell" and then the bomb blew up. So, maybe he does, because it does not. I literally just thought of that on the spot. Like I didn't even come in prepared for that. That just accumulated in my brain right now as I was talking. So there's that. But I do think that they were probably going for that he doesn't know, because in the interrogation scene, he basically, when he's saying Bruce Wayne, and this whole time I'm thinking he knows because of the unmasking video that's encrypted, that they haven't how decrypt, I don't even know what the opposite of encrypted is, decoded, whatever. They haven't done it at this point. So like Bruce Wayne sees his face next to Batman, whatever, so he's kind of putting together that he knows that he's Bruce Wayne. And then he goes and he's saying Bruce Wayne this and that, just for him to find out, obviously that that he says, yeah, Bruce Wayne, he's the only one we didn't get, or whatever, something along those lines. And so now we know that he doesn't know, which I thought was really cool, because at that point, that was when I realized that he didn't know. A lot of people didn't really like how he performed the Riddler, Paul Dana. I could be wrong, but they didn't like how he performed in it. I really liked how, I thought it was great, fantastic. Like, you gotta imagine being, not crazy if you're not, and then you have this huge inspiration, this ideology, and you get to meet your inspiration. You've been doing everything, your life's work at this point, what you put your heart and soul into, was because of this person. You meet them and they go to tell you you're crazy, and that's not at all what they're doing, or like you're doing the complete opposite. Like, that would probably hurt tremendously. And now you're talking about someone who's actually like mentally insane, like he's like a sociopath, getting told from Batman, his biggest inspiration, the guy who he thought was gonna love this idea and work with him when they finally met, him telling him that he's crazy and all that. Like, a crazy guy's probably gonna act like that. In my mind, I thought he played it perfectly. So I loved the whole Riddler character in this. I loved how dark he was, and I'm just the type of person where I kind of like dark takes, especially for like villains, because they're villains. Like, and at the end of the day, DC is a little darker than like Marvel, so I like that they take the more dark route, and then he's very menacing because of the way he acts. It just makes it even more unsettling to me. There's two things I'm going to go over here. I'm going to start with the positive one and then the one that's not so. And in that, he, talks to Batman now after he found out that he's not with him, and telling him his ultimate plan and saying, you're not as smart as I thought you were, because Batman didn't figure out, the whole master plan. He couldn't figure that one out. And then what most movies would do at this point is like Batman will go back, find out what it is, and somehow be able to stop it. But literally it's going on as he's talking, because the whole thing was to bring him there. And I think that was a part of why he was so positive, because he thought Batman probably found out the master plan, and that was probably even further like confirmed in his mind then, that like Batman's on my side, because he's literally here to watch with me my master plan. I really like that it just goes into it and it happens. It could have been really easy to just write in that Batman somehow saves the day, before it even occurs, but instead they take the route of it happening, and how does he solve it after the fact? Because again, he's still an amateur. So like, would an amateur really be able to figure all that out? Maybe if he knew what a carpeting tool was, maybe he would have took it as a clue, but I think it was a cool aspect. But then on the other hand, when he's actually on the, what do you want to call it, like the mega TV thing, like in the stadium, fighting off all the people about to shoot like the soon to be mayor, or now officially mayor, or whatever, and then all these people at the election, he gets to a point where he's literally one hand or whatever, like holding himself up on this sign or this TV, and there's a guy right above him, and it just, that part kind of, again, it's, to me, it's lazy writing, because you're basically just giving opportunity, trying to build tension for like Catwoman to come and save him, or Gordon, or whoever. And it's just, you could have had, it still would have been as effective if the guy was like running over to shoot him right then and there, and then he gets saved, because like right in that moment, because that, to me, that's more intense. If it actually feels threatening, like this dude, instead of walking up about to aim at him and aiming at him for 3 minutes, just to get kicked, because I know what's gonna happen at that point. Like, he's not gonna just shoot Batman in the face and now Batman's dead. So it's like it would be way more effective if he like ran over to shoot him and Catwoman, kicked him and stopped him. It just that builds, to me, builds more tension. Doesn't allow my mind to be like, oh, he's gonna be safe. It's like, oh, what's gonna happen? Even though it's Batman, we all kind of know he's not gonna die in the first movie. To go into more in depth into the negative aspects of the movie, that for me, one thing I'm gonna start kind of with just a nitpick is like the scene where they're at the funeral and then Batman gets blown up. At this point, I understand like Batman wants to do whatever he can to stop it, but like it's down to 5 seconds. He still doesn't have the code, and the dude's literally, they're having a conversation. The dude's telling him he's not gonna say anything because then his family's gonna die. At that point, because it's like, either he blows up and dies from the bomb and then he just dies, or he gives out some crucial information about like the mob or whatever, and then the mob goes and kills his family. So then either way, it kills him and his family. So it's just like, okay, that makes sense. I mean, as Batman with like 5 seconds left, when he tells you that, you should understand like, okay, that makes sense. There's no way I can save him, and I guess it's not Batman to just run away. But at the same time, I would understand it. The only reason he didn't is because the movie could be like, he's Batman, and for whatever reason, this explosion that was literally like basically touching him didn't affect him at all, because of whatever gear he has on is just the strongest like flak jacket gear ever created in the history of time. Has no anything on his face. Like, his face is, I mean, you could, even with this rubber mask, which should be blown to pieces, you can whatever make an argument as much as you want. He's a smart dude, he came up with some absorbent tech, whatever. He's still got a full on chin exposed. So I just don't understand why, like, nothing, he had no cuts, nothing. And those little things like just kind of tick me off, because it's like, you could just avoid the shooting with a million AR shooting him throughout the movie and nothing happened to him. Fine, like I can roll with that. He's a superhero. I can get with that his superheroes, he's just smart as hell, and or whatever, has people to make this phenomenal tech for him that's just no one else ever had or made or whatever. So I get that, but it's just that part, I don't know why, it just bothers me a bit. And then just to get into pretty much my big reason as to why I only gave it a 7 out of 10 is because it's too long, and most films, even when they're good, can be too long if it's 3 hours. But it's just, I mean, there's other good films that are 3 hours. I feel like for the most part, like, I was just intrigued from beginning to end, and it didn't feel like 3 hours. This movie to me definitely felt like 3 hours, and a lot of it had to do with one, kind of the monotone throughout from beginning to end, aside from when like Penguin was on screen, Jesus, when Penguin was on the screen. But for the most part, like, everything's monotone, dark, grim, which is fine. And I mean, I like dark and grim. A little bit of lightheartedness here and there, I think, definitely elevates a film so that you don't feel like the Dark Knights, like, those are dark films, like, or if you take Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, probably the darkest one of all three, like, it's still, the way that he played the Joker is very dark, but it's very charismatic dark, which is fine. Even if he's not like that, the film itself is generally dark. But I mean, there are little lighthearted things. Alfred in that movie is, he kind of lifts the film up a little bit with his kind of compassion and things like that. Harvey Dent in the movie, who kind of lifts the film up a little bit. He's the beacon of hope, really the beacon of hope without a mask, aside from that. And then little jokes here and there from Christian Bale or whoever, Morgan Freeman. And it even though the film's dark, it's kind of a little lifted because it's not so draining of a darkness. And I just feel like this one's just like in the gutter, just kind of low end monotone. Everything's so ultra serious from beginning to end that it takes a lot out of you to watch, or at least for me, it personally did. And I'm someone who likes dark stuff or things taken in kind of dark directions. I think the biggest thing was the length that had to do with Catwoman's part. I think specifically at the end, I mean, they should have ended at that little Joker cameo. I think they probably should have ended it there, but they decided to keep going for some reason, and then they had like a Catwoman and Batman part where they're splitting, and then it just shows them driving. It's like, not that takes up not that that scene was 30 minutes long, but it's just little things like that that didn't need to be there. And I felt like just kind of the aspect of Catwoman's part could have been gone and saved for another time, where Batman and Catwoman could have just had a more coherent story where they were cohesive together, like where their stories were more cohesive and made more sense together. Where here, I think I explained it like in my other review, it just felt like a lot of the movie, or a lot of the parts that Catwoman were in, were just devices in order to get Batman from one point to another. The biggest thing is just they could have shaved a lot of time off, and I think a lot of it could have been Catwoman's part. Even though I liked Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, I thought she was great when she was Catwoman, but aside from that, the other aspects of it, I just kind of felt I was lost with. I just wasn't really into, and just it could have been without. And then lastly, just to top this off, is another thing is the cameo from Joker, who I forgot what his name. I think Brian Keegan is who's announced to be the Joker, and a lot of people. This is discussed from a lot of people too. Like, oh, they should have waited. This, I really strongly believe if they would have just made that the ending, or if they would have made it like a post credit, that people wouldn't have felt as about it. Maybe some still would have, because, you know, obviously they're trying to throw something in there to get you really excited for the next one, because Joker, at this point, I think it's safe to say, is probably the biggest villain in history. Like, everyone knows Joker. Maybe between him and Darth Vader is like the two biggest villains, at least on the movie screen, ever. I understand wanting to throw him in there, get people hyped. I really understand that. And in any Batman series, you have to have Joker. I don't care if it's 1 film, 2 film, 3 films, you gotta have the Joker in there. It is what it is. I wasn't a huge fan of his laugh, and I know that's a little nitpick. Obviously it can evolve, but even for like Jared Leto, I didn't like his Joker, but in the trailer, I really liked his laugh. It was like a slow, methodical, weird, just like sinister laugh. And I mean, I love Heath Ledger. I love Jack Nicholson's. I love Mark Hamill's laugh is amazing, and a huge part of Joker is the laugh. It was just not the kind of maniacal laugh that I'm used to for Joker. So hopefully for me, I mean, for my sake, I hope it kind of changes, becomes a little more maniacal instead of just someone laughing a lot. But I think that's going to be it here for me for the spoiler review. This one was long, I'm sorry, but a spoiler review, when you go a little more in depth, is going to be a little bit longer. So I hope you enjoyed it though for what it was. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a good day and enjoyed the video. And if you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.